You are listening to Podcasting 101 with RSS.com, getting you ready to launch and grow your podcast.
Hey everyone, Ashley here with RSS.com podcasting. Today I'm so excited to bring you Sah D'Simone. Sah D'Simone is a spiritual revolutionary and best-selling author pioneering a spiritually sassy, heart-based healing movement in which joy and authenticity illuminate the path to enlightenment. Enjoy the show. So, Sah, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you could be here. Could you tell us all a little bit about what it is you do?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and a joy to be here. What do I do? Oh my goodness. So what I'm doing, let me try to be as simple and as casual about it as possible. I am a seeker, I am a teacher, I am a speaker, and I write and I teach and I guide people to rediscover their heart, to do a long journey from the mind into the heart. And the way that looks like is through content on social media, through the podcast, the Spiritually Sassy show, through my books, and through, talks and workshops all around the world. So my work is about teaching people to find poetry in their pain, to find a smile in their trauma, and to, once they actualize that smile and do live poetically, then they start to share that joy and that poetry with everyone around them. I call that living as a blessing factory or a miracle worker, because we all have those people in our lives that when we are around them, we just feel so relaxed. They don't have to do anything or say anything. And we just all of a sudden like, that is my goal with my work, is to help people become those people in their lives.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Now, so I read your book, a little bit of it. And so I know that you used to think that you had to like get quiet and find your spirituality in the quiet, but then
That's
it
right.
totally transformed into what it is today. So can you
That's
talk a
right.
little bit about that and when the podcast became part of the journey?
Oh yes, love this question. And it is like part of the process is about getting quiet. And then what happens a lot of times, and I wrote about this in a book too, and I speak about this often. I realized that it isn't about living, as I call the zombie Zen, how we equate spiritual seekers and spiritual teachers as the zombie Zen. You have to talk like this. You have to, look like that. You have to wear these kinds of clothes. You have to do these kinds of things. And this kind of forced seriousness is so imposed on the spiritual seeker. And oh my goodness, the spiritual guide could never do any of the things that I do, right? According to some people. But then I realized that, my most transformative experiences with my spiritual teachers in very traditional settings like India and Nepal, at monasteries and ashrams in these parts of the world, the most transformative experiences happened with joy, with laughter, with humor, with playfulness, with this lightheartedness. But I felt that I couldn't let my freak flag fly. I couldn't let my sassy nature fly because I thought that was not spiritual. And then I had this revelatory moment where I was like, no, you do need to get quiet. But then once you experience the peace and that arises from being quiet and going inward, then it's really about you showing the world what freedom looks like. And freedom, the outward expression of freedom looks different for everybody. For me, it's bold, loud, fierce, being androgynous and really expressing my queerness. For other people, looks different. It may be a little bit more quiet, a little bit more subdued in a variety of different ways, but the inner experience of freedom is the same for everybody. So I am just a permission slip for people to recognize that once they glimpse and experience this inner freedom, then the outward expression, if it's going to look freaky and sassy and bold and loud and flamboyant, that's okay too. Doesn't matter what some people on a spiritual path have said to you, that does not equate liberation. I'm here to say that it does, because I am a living, I'm living proof of it. And of course, with the blessing from people from my lineage and my training too, that's like joy is the way to liberation. And, then to talk about the Spiritually Sassy show, the podcast, which first of all, I'm so grateful for your platform. And I'm so grateful for everyone who's listening to this show and making the show such a success in such a short amount of time. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. What's happened is I needed another outlet to express my creativity and to also communicate with other people in the space and to have hard conversations with people in the space. I talk a lot about I have a set of questions on the podcast that I ask every guest. And a lot of times when I realize, I'm like, oh my God, the conversation I have with my friends when we're just hanging out at home, they should be recorded because these conversations are so transformative. They're like so enlightening. They need to be on the record. People need to listen to these things. And that's another thing that I realized, like, okay, like let's use the platform of a podcast for this long form content. And then let's talk about specific questions that oftentimes, sometimes when you are, engaging with people, you may talk about specific things, or you may, kind of just have more casual conversations sometimes. But I wanted to utilize the fact that I have access to so many amazing people to ask them really, really deep, powerful questions. And one question that I ask every guest on the show is a question of forgiveness. How does forgiveness play a role in your life? And the answers are like, oh my God, they're just amazing, So that's a little bit about it.
That's pretty wild. I mean, and some of the episodes that you've had, I mean, you've had some pretty amazing people. Like you had, oh goodness, how do you, Sophia,
Sophia Moroso,
yes, Sophia Moroso, yeah, you had her.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just like, and the questions you ask are not your typical questions that you would hear on a podcast because they go, like you said, so much deeper. So I'm curious, how do you find your guests?
I find my guests through, people that I'm inspired by. People that like I look around and I'm inspired by. And we're the podcast at a point now that we get people every single day asking to be on the show. And some people I'm really inspired by. Like the other day we had Sri Gurudev, Sri. His sort of name in the space more publicly is Gurudev, but the sort of longer name is Sri Ravi Shankar. And he's has like 450 million disciples, and he's done work in the prisons, and he's had over 800,000 people do his practices in the prison system. The dude is established in such a massive way. And then I had, someone from his team reach out to me asking if he could be in the podcast. And I was like, of course, hello, love it. Let's talk about the real stuff. So it varies, sometimes I have people reaching out to me and I think that they're really interesting. Sometimes I have, most of the time I have my team reaching out to people that I know personally, like Sophia, or people that I'm really inspired by. Like we had Julia Cameron on the show who wrote The Artist's Way. Her book has casually sold over 5 million copies. And, she really is the queen of creativity, as the New York Times calls her. So I've had her on the show. I mean, I actually am a little bit wild. I batched recorded. So I recorded episodes for an entire year. So this year I'm just doing a couple of people that I'm really, really inspired by. So I have episodes launching all through this year.
Okay, so you batch. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So what does that process look like for you? Like, do you just like schedule everybody and then tell them, okay, we're going to just go? Or how does that work for you?
It is freaking wild, to be honest. But the good thing is that I love talking. I love getting to know people. The beautiful thing about having a podcast is that it's for anyone who has a podcast, you're talking to people and you're listening to yourself talk. So you're learning so much about yourself and you're learning so much about your guests. So there's this enormous educational and inspirational component to it. During the batch process, it was partly because I wanted to take a break. I closed the Spiritually Sassy school, which a lot of people are upset about, but I needed to, realign with my vows, realign with my purpose, realign with my message. So I decided let's record enough episodes for an entire year so I can spend more time in prayer, spend more time in meditation, spend more time dancing, spend more time doing service that I don't get anything in return. Oftentimes with the nature of my work, like anyone's work, we do need a monetary support to keep going. But a huge part of my mission is to help people who are in rehabilitation centers in places like Nepal, in a rehab center in Kathmandu, and now here in Bali, where I'm currently living. And I don't get paid to teach at the rehab center in Nepal, Kathmandu, and working with the kids here at an orphan center in Bali, Indonesia too. It's like, I want to shift. I want to, and I am, and I have already, more and more of my work to be helping people who have nothing, because I've been so karmically blessed to work with these global celebrities and do things in a really large, beautiful scale and get very well financially supported for that. So all of that money and all of that is to really funnel the resources for the people who have really nothing,
Okay, that was a lot. So I got to unpack. I got to unpack a little bit. First of all, you said something that struck a chord with me because I've been watching your TikToks, and so you said dancing. When did the dancing evolve into this whole spiritually sassy moment?
Oh my goodness. Thank you for this question. Okay, that's great. So dancing. So, I was in a panel, and some women, powerful women, like from a big museum in New York, she says, so if I'm gathering this correctly, you dancing on social media is your way of seducing people to take care of themselves. And I was like, you know what? I think that's it. Because when I'm dancing, I'm emanating so much joy, and that joy activates your joy, the viewer, the audience, who's watching the content. So it activates their joy. And then when they read the caption on TikTok, the captions are so, so short. But on Instagram, I'm able to actually write a really beautiful text that are like, it's inspiring and educational. And the whole direction of that work is to get people to actually recognize that no one's coming to save them. You got to save yourself. No one can walk the path from the mind into the heart besides you. Some people like myself and other guides and yogis and mystics on the path can help you on that journey, but you got to walk that journey by yourself. It's alone together, right? I say this a lot, alone together. That's what the spiritual journey is like. So dancing became, what she said. I love what she reflected on, but the truth of it, I realized that I love to dance. And then I would bring the intention of, I'm going to dance my anger out. I'm going to dance my depression away. I'm going to dance my anxiety away. And I would bring this intention to the actual movement practice, and it would work. I would meditate first, I would pray, and I would bring that kind of prayer and intentionality of meditation into the dance. And I would finish the dance and I'll be like, oh my God, this is a healing tool. And then you look at all the research behind dance has been a part of humanity. We danced before we spoke, we danced before we wrote. And I realized how healing dance has been for me. And then the Sah Method, or the spiritual workout, or the spiritual dance, or the spiritually sassy dance practice, people call it a variety of different ways, was born out of me posting this intentional spiritual dance on Instagram, but not having language for it. I was just doing it, and writing these really informative captions about suicide rates, about mental health, about spirituality. And then something wild happens. With consistency and repetition, beautiful things happen. For all of you who are thinking about starting a podcast, consistency and repetition of like really, that will support you to actually grow your show and create something of impact. But through repetition and consistency of me posting these dance videos on social media, Deepak Chopra's team casually reached out to me and said, honey, we love what you're doing on social media. Can we meet? And I arrived at their office in New York City, and it was like, wow, dream come true, because it's Deepak Chopra. I mean, hello, honey. And they said, okay, we want you to teach that practice on a retreat with Deepak. And I was like, oh, casual. Now I have to like give a meaning, a name, and I have to like create a whole philosophy and psychology behind this dance practice that I've just been doing for my own liberation. But it was very easy to create language for it, because I could actually feel the tangible benefits of the practice, you know? So the spiritually sassy dance practice has dance, of course, has meditation involved, has mantra practice, and has breath practice. So these four practices are there to activate the four qualities in our heart, according to Buddhist psychology, which are love, compassion, joy, and wisdom. And who doesn't want more love, joy, compassion, wisdom in their lives? So the practice is you activate these four qualities in your heart. And then again, you enter the world emanating these qualities. So that's how dance came about. And then I, created a whole philosophy behind it. And I attached did a lot of inner reflection and a lot of inner research to actually create a movement language that helps people. So that's that.
I don't know if you're familiar with Natalie McNeil of the She Takes on the World, but before every webinar she does a dance party. And then there are times where she'll do a dance party before she's about to like create something for her business. And so she'll be like, okay, she'll tell her assistants, I need just a little bit of time. I got to go dance. And then she'll come back and she'll be like, I can see it and it's beautiful. Because it's so freeing, right? It opens your mind. It opens your creativity. It gets all those juices flowing. And so I'm curious, with the TikTok and with the Instagram, with all the dancing, does that bring people to your podcast, or is that just one of the many avenues that people find you from?
It does. I mean, I think people love, it's so funny to say this out loud, but people love, doing sort of mundane chores and listening to me talk. And and I think podcasts are really good for that. And at the same time, I invite people to try to listen to the podcast, while you're laying down in your bed and not doing anything else, or going for a walk and not checking social media, and just kind of trying to make it intentional. So, I think the podcast is it's honestly one of the best things that I've created, because I'm so happy with every episode. And I'm so happy with the conversations and the feedback and all the things. I'm just like, yes, 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 yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, and like every episode, I mean, this is going to sound cheesy, I'm sure, but I don't care. So to me, it's like every episode you have is almost like a gift to yourself. It's giving you time with yourself to not only listen to the words that you're saying, but reflect on how they affect your body, how they affect your mind and your path. And so that's why I love it just so, so much. So I'm curious though, with like monetization, you had mentioned that it became very successful very fast. What avenues are you using to monetize the podcast?
So I am coming from a different angle, because I launched the podcast when I already had a really large following and a large newsletter, and I had a whole marketing team and a manager and an agent. And so what I'm going to share perhaps isn't, people's experience if they're launching it from the ground up. But here's a couple things that are very helpful for anyone, wherever you are. The way monetization happened for me is I was already doing a lot of content for other brands on social media. I was already speaking for other brands. I was already going to other companies and doing, different things for other companies. So it just became kind of an easier thing to just say, hey, I can come speak, I can come do this talk. And then what about you advertise on a podcast? And what about you sponsor this dance practice that I'm going to have? So we were able to do this kind of integrated marketing where I'll post on social media, I'll mention in my newsletter, I will do something for your company, and then you sponsor the episode. So it was this integrated marketing approach to it. So I just my team reached out to a lot of the brands that I had already worked with in the past to then sponsor the podcast. So that was, if you already have a sort of a built-in community and you already have brands that you're working with, just reach out to them and see if they want to sponsor the episode, the show. So that's one side. On the other side, get affiliates. Find brands that you love what they do, that are very well established, that are already doing big things. I think we often feel like we have to recreate the wheel. Some people created the wheel and it's moving smoothly. Don't think you need to recreate that thing. Work with them and create your own wheel. Create your own thing after. So the affiliate stuff is very important. Reach out to brands companies that have amazing affiliate programs and incorporate different affiliate links throughout the show. at the beginning, in the middle, and the end, perhaps too. But work with affiliate and reach out to them and say, hey, I'm doing something unique on my show. I think your brand could really use this. And if your affiliate is this amount for regularly, why don't we up to this for my company? So I've done affiliate for a variety of different people, and it's amazing because you are always going to have someone clicking on that link and being interested in it. But most important with any brand partnership, this is like, I was like moving on without saying this, with every brand partnership and with every sponsorship, with every affiliate, you must see if they have integrity about their brand and their business the same way that you do. They must have integrity. They must be doing something of benefit into the world. That will help me have a full body yes when I'm working with a brand, instead of like, maybe it's really well paid, but maybe. And then it's just like, if it's a maybe, it's a hell no for me. When there's like full integrity, it's a hell yeah.
Okay, that makes complete sense. And I'm so glad you said that, because so many people, whenever they start podcasting, they think, oh, okay, I got to create merch or I got to create digital products. And it's like, no, you don't. You can start with affiliate products and be a partner.
Right.
And I also like what you said about making sure that it's someone who has integrity, because far too many people are only looking at the paycheck. They're not looking at whether or not it aligns with their values. And so I'm just so glad you said all of that. That's fantastic. So what are you doing right now to promote your podcast, if anything?
Oh, we're doing so much.
I love it.
We are doing a newsletter, and we promote on Instagram every Sunday. Most regularly, I post a audiogram on my grid. I post multiple stories. We send all the promotional material to every guest who's on the show for them to promote to. And I think that's kind of it. And I just regularly, promote the episodes because I'm just so proud of the work. I'm just so proud of what we're putting out there. It's really amazing, juicy, delicious conversations that move me deeply. And, it's just like, I'm just proud of the work. And when you're proud of the work, you feel excited to share.
I love that. So now, do your guests, do you find that they often are willing to promote, or do you ever have trouble getting the guests to promote the episodes too?
No, that's a good question. And to be honest, I don't really care. I feel like if the guest promotes, great. If they don't, great. I feel like my community is like really loving what I'm doing, and they're coming to me for a very unique experience of spirituality. So therefore, I feel like if the guest promotes, great. But it's really like, and to be honest, yeah, I have these big superstars in the podcast too, with a lot more followers than I do. But oftentimes it's just people who are living with enormous integrity, who are actually devoted to healing, who are actually devoted to making the world a better place. So I don't care how much followers I don't care the size of the newsletter. I don't care about any of that stuff. I just care about the guests having something of value to offer the audience. So if they share, great. If they don't, great. We're doing our part, And I also have to say that, again, consistency will get you to be ranked on the platforms. And you have to ask the audience to subscribe, to review, to do all the things, and to share with their friends, So create a little outro that says, if you love the show, please subscribe, review, send it to your friends, your family, don't be afraid of letting people know that you're excited about what you created. I think we're living in a society of of being so critical of other people, and so much judgment and so much envy and jealousy. So you just got to remember that people who are spilling out, who are being judgmental or critical, or just, plainly mean about what you're creating, they're in pain. Because if someone is at peace with themselves, they would never speak pain into the world or cause pain to another human ever. It's just like a natural law. You recognize that, we are each other, and we are really interdependent and interconnected across every mystical tradition. You know this. So if you're at peace, you recognize our interdependence. Therefore, harming them, it's harming yourself. So that goes with the podcast too. If you're, boldly and loudly and excited about sharing your podcast and people start being sort of mean and vicious about it and you start to feel down, just recognize that they're in pain. So when we're hurt, we hurt others. And when we're at peace, we bring peace into the world. So don't get attached to it. Let it come and let it pass. Just keep going. Keep being bold about it and fierce about it.
It's interesting you say that because you had a video you did recently where you were basically responding to one of your haters. And it was fascinating that your community is so positive that they were like, yeah, we want what you got. So keep giving it to us. So it's kind of interesting to me how, like, even though you do have people that are giving you the hate, you come out of it with such positivity. And it's just beautiful.
Years in the making, though. Years in the making. That's not to say that at the beginning of me, coming out as queer and really embracing that I'm brown and I'm queer. Oh my God. Like, I'm statistically not meant to succeed in a society that's, that's saying that isn't normal. That isn't the highest vision. That isn't the vision of beauty and success. But so at the beginning, I was, responding to pain with more pain. So it's years in the making to get to a point where I'm actually able to see someone being hateful and recognize that they just need to be loved and cared for. And perhaps I don't have the love and care that I don't have the tools and resources to offer them the love and care that they need. But perhaps I know someone who does. Perhaps I can recommend them to somebody. Perhaps I can just point that person to someone, So oftentimes with compassion and it's really about, not entering into a mindset of hate back, but truly recognize that person needs to be alleviated from their suffering the same way that we do. And sometimes we don't have the resources. So get out of the way and find a way to offer resources, someone else's resource, so that person's causing pain. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. And it reminds me of Denise Duffield Thomas. I don't know if you're familiar with her. I'll have to cut this part out, but she's known as Lucky Bitch online. But she often says, if you can't forgive someone, then talk to them as if you're talking to the child version of them. That way you're not looking at them as the mean adult that they are. You're looking at them as the helpless child who was hurt.
That's right. That's right. And I love that.
Yeah. So, yeah, you've done a lot. I mean, you have a lot of episodes. You keep showing up in our community pages. I mean, you're on fire. But I have to ask you, do you think it's because of the niche that you chose? Not that you didn't go seeking that niche. It sounds like it found you. But do you think it's your niche that is making you so successful?
Yes, absolutely. I think so. And I think I say this often to people, and I was just talking to my partner earlier today. It's like, for people who are wanting to express themselves creatively, yes, look around, be inspired by other people, and then pause, and then go inside, close your eyes, journal about it, let your own muse, orient your life, orient your words, orient your creativity, do a practice that will awaken the inner muse, the inner creative muse for yourself, and then allow her to orient your next step, your next thought, your next words, So I think for anyone who's starting a podcast now and wanting to create something of value, something that's impactful, look around at what other people are doing, get inspired by them, and then say, okay, I have taken this week to do research. Now I'm going to take the next 3 weeks to cultivate and tickle and flirt with the muse that lives in my heart. What can I do to bring the muse to life? Dance, meditate, pray, go be of service, go laugh, garden. There's a variety of different things you could do to activate the muse. And then during those moments of activation and dancing with the muse, you're going to hear the whispers from the heart. The muse will speak to you and say, this is what the podcast should be about. And these are the questions you should ask. I love asking specific questions on the show. And then I, of course, also love, tailoring questions, because my team does the research on the guest, and then they send me all the questions that the guest wants me to ask them. And then they send me questions that they researched the guest, the questions based on what they researched the guest. And then I also have my own intuitive hits and intuitive downloads of what I need to ask the guest. So there's quite a bit of moving parts that happen behind every episode,
So you get those goddess winks while you're talking to them.
That's right.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, so what do you see for the future of your podcast?
What do I see for the future of the podcast? One thing that we're launching soon is more of my life updates. You know, I think that's since I've left Los Angeles and I went nomadic, me and my partner have gone nomadic. We put all our house in storage. And we got rid of the car and we just decided to live nomadically in these pilgrimage places around the world. So what we did, we recorded an episode last week. So I'm going to go back to recording now, mostly life updates. And it's really like, it's not just me telling, hi, I hiked the volcano. Hey, I went to this water temple. Oh my God, I met an oracle. Oh my God, there was a snake in my kitchen. It's like, it's not that. Only it's that, but like, what did I learn from hiking a volcano at 4:00 in the morning on New Year's Eve? Like, what did I learn from meeting an oracle and going to a water temple? What was it like to wake up and have a huge snake in the kitchen? Because I live in a jungle and it's an open kitchen. So things like that happen, monkeys come, snakes come, all kinds of lizards, all kinds of sizes, they just show up. So it's life updates. It's something that I think the community is wanting. And I also, was reflecting on it through a psychological, sort of evidence-based and spiritual perspective too. When we retell the things that we like about our day, it restructured the architecture of our brain. It watered the seeds of positivity and relaxation and gratitude in our mind, and it opens our heart. So this is why gratitude journaling, things you're grateful for in a day, or the things that happen in your day that you're happy about, the good things that you've done, talking about them regularly reinforces at a physiological level in your brain, of course, psychologically in the mind and spiritually in the heart. So those life updates are both an offering to the community and also an offering for me to remember and really feel energized and to carry those memories with a little tighter, closer to me, because we have the negativity bias, wired into our brain, wired into our mind. So therefore, we are constantly just looking out for the negatives and only remember the negative parts of our life and not really focusing so much on the good things that happen. So life updates are coming to you.
Yeah, what is it? They say the lizard brain. It's such a hater.
That's right.
Our lizard brain, yeah, such a hater. Now I have at least 5 people that I know that are going to be very upset with me if I don't ask you this. How did the Cardi B thing happen?
Oh, yes. So the Cardi B happened the same way that the Kanye West thing happened. It's like they find me, and then it's many talks, many contracts, many things I can't say anything about, and it's someone reaches out to you on email or someone introduces you because they like your work to them. And then it was months in the making for me to come and film with Cardi B that day. We're trying to figure out like what would be the best healing practice for her and for the show. What's something that would look beautiful, that would feel energizing and healing for her. And then we changed the practice a few times because, Cardi was pregnant when we were filming the episode. And, but if there's one thing that I always, speak to people, and it was the first thing that kind of set me off to go, live in India, Nepal years ago in the spring of 2014 was forgiveness. I didn't know how to forgive myself and I didn't know how to forgive other people. And I didn't know how to ask for forgiveness. I had been trained, and I think, people could relate to this, to act in a polar opposite of letting go and making peace with the past and recognize that my mistakes are not who I am. And the way people have caused me pain, that behavior isn't who they are, although we see as behavior as who someone is at the base of their being. So it was through the practice of forgiveness that I realized that we're not our mistakes, and we actually have the choice to stop the cycle of pain going forward. And forgiveness is a gift to yourself. And I mean, yada, yada. I can talk about forgiveness for hours and hours and hours, but when I thought about what is one thing that I would like to offer Cardi B and that huge audience was forgiveness. And how do we make forgiveness cool and appealing? It was doing an art ritual where we're painting using
Which was my favorite
kinds of
part of that episode, by the way.
okay.
I don't mean to interrupt, but that was my favorite. Like watching y'all paint, that was my favorite part of the episode. For anybody who's listening to this who has no idea what we're talking about, Sah got this amazing opportunity to actually do a healing practice with Cardi B, and it's on Facebook right now. And we'll definitely leave a link down below because it's an epic video.
Oh, thank you, honey. Yeah, so it was an amazing opportunity to share forgiveness. I said, if whatever, however it goes down a day, at least I'm happy that I was able to share a forgiveness practice with such a legendary, iconic star. And you watch her having resistance to the first part of the forgiveness ritual, and then she comes in full circle and says, she says those words, forgiving them is a gift to myself. I feel more at peace. And so, give yourself the laugh and go watch the episode.
Oh, it's a fantastic episode. Well, I'm going to ask you the one thing that I ask everyone. What is one thing that I didn't ask you really wish I had?
Oh my God, honey. I don't know.
Put you on the spot there.
I know. One thing you didn't ask me that I wish you did, about my painting practice, my personal painting practice that I'm looking at my painting right now. I haven't painted in 20 years, but I started since moving to Bali, and I'm painting, I'm really using creativity as I use with Cardi to express my heart, to, really heal my relationship to my past, to anchor myself more in the present moment. And I'm not a painter and I don't have traditional training. I'm just looking at it and I'm like, oh my goodness, honey, that's a mess. But I'm just happy with my choice to create with my paint, to use it as inspiration for liberation,
What's the one message that keeps coming through is forgiveness. But is there any other message you really want to leave with the listeners of this episode?
One other message that I wish to leave with the listeners of the episode.
I'm putting you on the spot left and right.
I know, yeah, and I don't do well with that either. I mean, when people have like those rapid fire questions, I'm like, honey, I can't do it. I ask my team to like make sure to cut that out of every episode because I'm like,
okay,
honey, I don't know. But
if you want, we can cut it.
No. What's one message I can leave with people? It's, I think we should just, emphasize the importance of learning to forgive yourself, forgive others, and ask for forgiveness, and recognize that forgiveness is the nectar of presence, and it's the gateway to unconditional love. So if you want to experience genuine self-care, learn to forgive yourself.
Well, my fellow podcasters, I hope you enjoyed all the amazing insights that Sah D'Simone had to offer. To learn more about launching and growing your own podcast, visit us at rss.com/blog. You can get started for free by getting your first episode on us. Thanks for tuning in.